UN Deputy Secretary General arrives in Port Moresby. PNG celebrates International Women's Day. And nominee for PNGRFL top post defends life bans.
This is National EMTV News with Neville Choi.
Good evening and welcome. This is Sunday's news. United Nations Deputy Secretary General Amina Jane Mohammed arrived in Port Moresby this morning. It's been her first day in the country and she has already accomplished much. Among many official visits, she joined in to celebrate International Women's Day, met with youth, the Prime Minister, and officially launched the Spotlight Initiative. PNG is one of 6 countries the UN has chosen for the initiative and the 4th that the Deputy Secretary General is visiting.
It has already been a busy day for the United Nations Deputy Secretary General, Amina Jane Mohammed. Upon arriving this morning, she joined all the women, girls, and everyone in the country to celebrate International Women's Day. The UN Deputy Secretary General and her delegation joined the walk and yoga for life. She then had a dialogue with 26 young leaders. After a meeting with PNG Prime Minister James Marape, she officiated the official launch of the Spotlight Initiative.
We will focus on investing in 11 provinces in all the 4 regions of the country. Everyone in the country is expected to benefit from the Spotlight Initiative. We will leave no woman or girl behind.
The Spotlight Initiative is a 75 million kina partnership program between the United Nations and the European Union. PNG is one of the 6 countries that the UN has chosen for the Spotlight Initiative. The program intends to strengthen and support the government's capacities and its commitment toward ending violence against women. This will be done through a variety of transformation programs, strengthening justice, child protection and the health sector, improving data quality, and supporting local and community-based organizations in their response on this issue.
In all of the 140-plus countries the EU has diplomatic relations with. And we don't just talk, we take action. We get involved. And the EU will continue to work with our local and international partners until violence against women and girls is finally eradicated.
NCD Governor Powers Pakop says the initiative will shine a light in every dark corner of the city and country.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to do away with the pleasantries. All the formalities has been done. Today, especially on this day, the 8th of March, International Women's Day, it's time for us to disrupt the status quo.
Deputy Prime Minister Davis Stephen reiterated what the governor said and challenged individuals to take on the initiative.
Some preparation has been done. Today I'm here to say it is not enough. It is not enough. Government in Wagani must admit that we are not doing enough, we are not prepared enough to tackle this challenge and to stop gender-based violence in our generation.
The UN Deputy Secretary General Amina Jane Mohammed will be visiting a province in the Highlands and returns to New York on Wednesday with discussion points to present to headquarters. Lilian Sopera-Kenea, National EMTV News.
Today, March the 8th, is International Women's Day. The day comes as no surprise as women all over the world celebrate their womanhood in all walks of life, making their mark in breaking boundaries in all fields of work, regardless of race and religion. And it's women like PNGDF's Second Lieutenant for Combat Engineers, Sherwin Pohonai, whose testament is only one of many of why women all over the world are breaking barriers every day to celebrate this day.
Second Lieutenant Sharon Pohonai was one of the only 2 women deployed down south with the male-dominated Papua New Guinea Defence Force troops to assist with the aftermath of the recent massive bushfires in Australia and restoration activities in the fire-ravaged towns, expressing delight in job satisfaction for a woman in the force.
Yes, I'm really impressed with how the troops perform. They are sent for the right job, right task, and they did what they did, which was, we felt a sense of satisfaction at the end of the day, yeah.
Breaking barriers in a male-dominated workforce, the second lieutenant expressed that it was one of the highlights of her career, adding that it was also a learning opportunity.
We learned a lot from working with multinationals, like different armies on the very, like, especially the operating within a big operations like this. I think our skills together working with them, since we've been training so far together in other exercises, but this time it was an opportunity for us to showcase what we already learned. So it was good because we have a common understanding in terms of work.
She adds that working in a male-dominated force can be overwhelming, however encouraged women and girls to fight the stereotype of inequality and challenge themselves to join the PNGDF, if not any male-dominated profession, and level the playing field.
I would encourage ladies to join. In this in Defence Force, it's not only wearing uniform, there's more to that which they can explore. Some of them, like, it gives more courage and confidence to female, especially discipline. In this society that we live today, like, women have been vulnerable to social injustice. So I see in military, if more women join, they'll be in a better position to have that strong courage to stand back and address such issue also.
Under the worldwide International Women's Day theme, I Am Generation Equality, women in the nation's capital had taken to an early commemorative start this morning, with NCD Governor Boris, who later hosted the United Nations Deputy Secretary General Madame Amina Mohammed at the New Gordon's Market and met with the Women's Vendors Association. Annette Cora, National EMTV News.
Foreign Affairs and International Trade Minister Patrick Pruitt has signed a bilateral roadmap of cooperation program with the Kingdom of Morocco. The signing took place at the 3rd Morocco Pacific Island States Forum. Under the Roadmap of Cooperation Program 2020 to 2022, Morocco and the Pacific Island nations have pledged to cooperate on multilateral initiatives to tackle challenges posed by climate change and sustainable development. Minister Pruitt said the Morocco Pacific Islands Forum could facilitate increased regional cooperation in agriculture, fisheries, tourism, climate change, trade, education, and energy. The Memorandum of Understanding seeks to establish regular policy consultations between the 2 governments and to provide cooperation in the field of environment and sustainable development. Prime Minister James Marape officially met with the new Japan ambassador to Papua New Guinea, Kuniyuki Nakahara, this week. The two shared some moments together while acknowledging the significant developments Japan is carrying out in the country. Prime Minister Marape says PNG and Japan will continue the good relationship and strengthen the cooperation. Also this week, PM Marape met and welcomed the new Fijian High Commissioner to PNG, Mosese Tikoitiga. Discussions include the steadfast contributions to improve trade and investment, people-to-people connectivity, tourism and sports, among others. Prime Minister Marape also extended condolences to the family of the former High Commissioner of Fiji, who passed away recently. This is MTV National News. We'll be back with more after the break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. A team of correctional officers have been deployed to Daru, Western Province, to finalize arrangements to transfer inmates from the Daru Correctional Center to Bomana Jail in Port Moresby. The transfer is a measure taken by the Correctional Service following the condemning of the jail facility in Daru. CS Commissioner Stephen Pokanis says warders are now executing emergency contingency plans to have all inmates transferred to Port Moresby. Meanwhile, second in charge of the Papua New Guinea Defence Force, Captain Philip Polewara, has confirmed there is no PNGDF presence at the forward operation base in Daru because the facility has been condemned and declared unfit for human habitation. PMV operators and vehicle owners are expecting a further decrease in prices of petroleum products on average right throughout the country. The Independent Consumer and Competition Commission has announced a drop in fuel prices that will come into effect starting today. The fuel prices in Port Moresby will be different compared to other provinces and towns depending on transportation costs.
The further drop in import parity prices for petrol, diesel and kerosene is attributed to a 12.7% decrease in crude oil prices during the month of February. This decrease is because of a drop in demand for crude oil as economic activities in China slowed down over 3 months because of the outbreak of coronavirus. In Papua New Guinea, ICCC has outlined the new prices that will be charged on petroleum products on average right throughout Papua New Guinea. Based on calculations from ICCC, maximum retail fuel prices for petroleum products include: petrol will see a 31 toya per litre decrease in Port Moresby and 15.52 toya per litre decrease in other centres. Diesel, 28 toya per litre decrease in Port Moresby, while 27 toya per litre decrease in other centres. And kerosene prices will see 24 toya per litre decrease in Port Moresby, while 28 toya decrease for other centres. ICCC has asked all retail distributors and service station operators to make the necessary changes to the prices accordingly. The changes in the new prices comes into effect today. Thekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
The Kairukuhiri District Development Authority held its board meeting at Edevu in the Brown River LLG recently. The meeting was to deliberate on the disbursement of 2019 education and transport funds. Meanwhile, DDA Chairman and Kairukuhiri MP Peter Isowaimo told the board first quarter funding for 2020 has not been received due to unknown reasons.
Earlier this week, board members of the Kairukuhiri District Development Authority travelled up to Edevu in the inlands of Brown River local level government. The DDA meeting was held at the Edevu hydropower camp. This special board meeting was to deliberate on 2019 funds for transport and education. These were funding for the completion of Berena Oreke Road, upgrading of Berena Wafer Road and double classrooms for Keria and Berena primary schools. Also raised in the DDA meeting were concerns of the shift to IMF system. Board members say the new system is good for bookkeeping but is slow to release appropriated funding for projects to commence. With Kairukuhiri district boasting the largest landmass in Central Province, funds have been thinly distributed for implementation of services. Meanwhile, the district is yet to receive its first quarter funding for 2020. That has delayed payments for school fee assistance for most schools. Following the meeting, DDA members were given a tour of the new Edevu hydropower project, a project that has huge potential to ease the electricity woes of Port Moresby. The Edevu Hydro project will also boost the district's rural electrification project and extend its grid to communities, a project supported by the New Zealand government. Jagla Pava Jr., National EMTV News.
Papua New Guinean artist Ratus Gary yesterday held a mini art expo opposite Hardware House at Waigani Central to launch his paintings. Many of his paintings are said to express the belief and traditions of his ancestors, the people of Gulf Province.
Born in the 1960s in a small tribe called Elama in the Gulf Province, artist Ratos found his roots as an artist and became involved in a wide range of teaching and performing in occupations both in PNG and Australia. His paintings expresses his ancestors' traditions and beliefs, the people of Orokolo and Kerma Bay near the shores of the Gulf of Papua. His ancestors are known for being the oldest and most radical tribe in Papua New Guinea, mostly recognized for their sorcery and mediumship in relation to the governing of the people.
But I see that the skill for art is very important, because without skill, Papua New Guinea cannot go over bridge on the other communities around the world. and the skill is the important. So art provides recycling. He looks around the breeding of it.
His continuous designs and symbols to communicate ideas about his heritage and beliefs have captured a lot of attention both locally and internationally. One person he captured the attention of was 24-year-old Dominica Kurena from Milne Bay Province. She was captivated when she first walked into the outdoor art studio, and after doing her first splash of paint, she has been part of Rato's painting since then. In collaboration between the City Pharmacy Limited group of companies and artist Ratos in December last year, the space was given to them to display their artwork for 3 months. CPL Managing Director Mahesh Patel says this team of artists are very talented and need to be recognized at an international level.
The proof has been really in this. If you look at young Dominica, who's an art enthusiast, she got captured. She came out and did some painting, and there's a number of people who walk past. It's just regenerating art back into the mainframe, I think.
Australia's Deputy Head of Mission to PNG, Caitlin Wilson, says Papua New Guinea has a rich and vibrant culture, and there is a lot to show.
With the modern art, contemporary art, you can see a different way of visualising the creativity, and it's an absolute talent that I personally would really like to see fostered and supported. I've bought a number of pieces myself. I have a Ratus painting on my wall at work.
Michelle Stephen, National MTV News.
The New Britain Palm Oil Foundation has donated 15,000 kina towards Sir Optimist International PNG to support the newly established Karike Huhume Memorial Scholarship for Girls in Papua New Guinea. The donation was presented on behalf of the foundation by NBPOL Head of Sustainability Ian Oro and Country Manager Robert Nilkare to SIPNG President Kimberly Barham in Port Moresby. The scholarship is a national initiative in memory of the late Susan, who assisted girls who have come from broken homes or discriminated for their gender to continue their education. The scholarship was launched in 2019 and will commence this year with 5 selected girls receiving 3,000 kina each towards their education. The late Susan, who designed the PNG flag in 1971, received no formal education and passed away in 2017. PNG has 5 Sir Optimist clubs with a total of 150 members. You're watching National MTV News. We'll take a short break now, but when we come back, news making headlines overseas. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas, dozens of staff at a major Auckland hospital are in self-isolation after they cared for a probable coronavirus patient without knowing it. Of 18 North Shore Hospital staff that cared for the women, 43 are considered at risk, and at least 3 Kiwis remain as crew members on board the Grand Princess cruise ship, which is offshore in San Francisco, of which 19 crew have tested positive for COVID-19.
Off the coast of San Francisco, the Grand Princess cruise ship remains in coronavirus quarantine. There are now 21 confirmed cases here. 3,000 on board will be tested. It's now been revealed 8 Kiwis left the ship last month before the outbreak on board was known. 5 of those people are fine and have shown no symptoms. Another 2 are being tested for COVID-19. They have mild symptoms. And since she's been back, a third has been hospitalised with a respiratory condition. The woman in her 70s has been discharged. It's now thought she had coronavirus.
When she was first admitted with the respiratory illness, that she was a probable case of COVID-19.
Officials have been racing to find out who she has since come into contact with. That includes dozens of doctors, nurses and staff at North Shore Hospital. They have now been forced into isolation too.
43 of those had been identified as close contacts and are now in self-isolation.
The woman, who's back in hospital for an unrelated matter, came home 11 days ago. She flew Air New Zealand from San Francisco on NZ7 on the 25th of February. Public health staff are now tracking down anyone she was in close contact with. It's now been 1 week since New Zealand's first confirmed case of COVID-19. So far, 218 tests have been carried out. Today, the Director-General of Health confirmed New Zealand's 5th case.
A New Zealand citizen in her 40s, and she is the partner of the 3rd case that was announced earlier this week.
The woman's now in self-isolation but doesn't require hospital care. Meanwhile, across the country, GPs are dealing with an influx of concerned patients. Lower Hutt GP Joel Howe has started a petition calling for drive-through testing for COVID-19.
The patients effectively bring their own isolation room. There's no messy, time-consuming sort of disinfection process.
The idea may seem dramatic, but it's already being trialled overseas. Officials here say things aren't at that stage yet. However, News Hub has heard from other frustrated GPs who say they don't have room, facilities or equipment to deal with the outbreak. Dr. Jan White says many clinics are waiting for protective gear on back order, but they're in the dark as to when it will arrive.
We've had no information about that at all. And again, I think that is one of the frustrations that general practitioners are feeling. We feel out of the loop.
The ministry is defending its communication and suggests GPs improvise.
It can involve someone actually putting the PPE on and going assessing a person in the car. It often involves bringing a person in a back door and just limiting their contact.
As for the stranded Grand Princess, there are still 3 Kiwis on board, all crew members. Their conditions are unknown, but the ministry says it's trying to find out.
Despite global efforts, the spread of coronavirus continues unabated. It's now reached almost 100 countries and infected more than 102,000 patients. That is prompting billions to be poured into efforts to find a vaccine.
We will defeat coronavirus. These Iranian firefighters carrying the message on signs. Donning protective suits, they prepare electrostatic sprayers in the capital, Tehran. Covering an 18-kilometre stretch of this central city road in disinfectant. Even shrines are being sprayed with chemicals as Iran's COVID-19 cases head towards 5,000 and deaths tip into the hundreds. At other holy sites like Saudi Arabia's Grand Mosque in Mecca, the effect of coronavirus on travel is visible, pilgrimages banned. And in Israel, Bethlehem's Nativity Church has been closed amid outbreak fears, tourist buses turned away. Along with Iran, Italy has the highest number of coronavirus deaths outside of China, now close to 200.
Il dato di oggi.
At a press conference, Italy's Special Commissioner for Coronavirus was choosing to focus on the positive, saying 109 patients have recovered, despite 49 people dying from the virus in one day. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has announced extra funding to help research a coronavirus vaccine. It comes as the UK registers its 2nd death, this time a man in his 80s.
My condolences go out to the family and to his loved ones. We are working round the clock to keep people safe.
President Donald Trump today also allocated billions in funding to the search for a vaccine.
Came out of nowhere. But we're taking care of it.
There have been 14 deaths in the US, many at this Washington nursing home that remains under lockdown. Dorothy Campbell only able to see her husband of 60 years through the window.
He looked good. Yeah, at least I think he did.
COVID-19 has now reached nearly 100 countries, amongst the latest Cameroon in Central Africa and Peru, where physicians are practicing how to transport infected patients as the virus continues to spread.
An airline industry group says the outbreak could cost airlines about $180 billion in lost revenue. Many travelers have cancelled trips because they're afraid of catching the virus on planes.
With the spread of the virus, people are wondering if it's safe to fly.
Doctor, would you get on a flight today? I would get on a flight if I needed to.
Doctors we spoke to said yes if you're under 55 and have no underlying health conditions.
If you're a 25-year-old and get on a plane, you're going to be fine. Even if you get the virus, you're going to be fine. But if you're 75 or are getting chemotherapy or have a heart condition, it probably makes sense that you stay home now.
With a sick person next to you on a plane, CBS News contributor Dr. David Agus had this advice.
If that happens, ring the bell, tell the flight attendant, and tell the person next to you, would you mind putting on a mask? And in today's world, where we are one community, they should not mind.
The plane itself is not considered unsafe because the air is filtered for viruses and bacteria every few minutes, and airlines have put new cleaning procedures in place. It's getting to the plane where you're more exposed.
It's standing in the cattle car at the gate where you're all waiting to get on or getting off, where many people are congregated right together. It's every bit as much a risk as being on the plane itself.
Here at LAX, a second medical screener has tested positive for the coronavirus. Americans returning from 4 countries with the greatest outbreaks are subject to health screenings in LA and 10 other airports, but a new study finds 2/3 of infected travelers are likely making it into the U.S. undetected.
The doctors we talked to were not terribly surprised about that 2/3 figure because the health screenings that are happening at those airports, including here at LAX, are really focused only on spotting signs of fever.
Farmers say they're battling with water reform, climate change, mounting debt, and now the unpredictability of N. bovis and coronavirus. Rising stress has seen more than 170 farmers take their own lives in the past decade and have left many rural communities facing a mental health crisis.
Mark and Maria Gascoigne are proud dairy farmers, but 4 years ago they came painfully close to calling it quits.
I do remember Maria saying, you know, maybe you've got depression, and I felt like it was a slap in the face, you know.
Decision making became impossible, and 2 a.m. wake-ups with worst-case scenarios playing on repeat on the brain became the norm.
Suddenly just felt like the whole world was just closing in.
1 in 4 New Zealanders live in rural areas, and the Rural GP Network says mental health services are so overloaded, farmers are falling through the cracks.
Actually, we have got to a crisis time. It's happening right now. It's going to be worse in 10 years' time because we know most of our GPs and nurses who work rurally are in their 50s now.
With agriculture making up almost half of New Zealand's gross emissions, farming has become a lightning rod for public criticism and government legislation. 20% of Kiwis have a negative view of dairying. 12% have a negative feeling towards sheep and beef farmers. Over the past decade, 172 farmers have taken their own lives. Provisional data shows that in the year from July 2018 to 2019, 13 farmers died by suicide. That's actually down from 23 the year prior. But already, in the months since, another 10 suspected suicides have been referred to the coroner.
There's a heap of farmers out there killing themselves because they're just getting into these dark holes.
Stephen Thompson's seen it firsthand. Born and raised on a farm, he's worked as a sheep and beef consultant and now sells rural real estate. He's also a surfer. Which brings us here to Gisborne, the home of surfing for farmers.
We come down to the beach for a couple of hours every week, out in the ocean, no cell phones, no dogs, no sheep, no dramas.
Farm gear is traded for wetsuits.
Have you got short side?
Yep. And stress is swapped for surf.
It's great to walk out there and for a short period of time every week have no worries in the world.
The initiative is sponsored by local businesses and spearheaded by Stephen, all in a bid to get farmers off the farm and active, ultimately to save their lives.
You're watching Sunday's News. Trukai Sports is next. All the details after the break. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. It is now clear that nominee for Southern Confederate Director Peter Oresi was banned for life in 2006. But Oresi had been participating fully in the past 15 years in rugby league. He is the president of Popondetta Rugby League. He says he was not served any letter by PNGRFL on a life ban. His implication and the fact that some affiliated leagues to the PNGRFL have outstanding payments to the league are reasons why the AGM for PNGRFL was deferred to the 28th of March.
with a deferral of the annual general meeting of the Papua New Guinea Rugby Football League by its board to the 28th of March, current chairman Sandy Saka has clarified that there are 2 nominations in question, with one of the nominees apparently serving a life ban from the sport.
One of the candidates especially was banned for life in 2006 by the PNGRFL from holding public office. Another candidate whose nomination became an issue when we were unable to ascertain if he was properly nominated, because the league, which one of the leagues that seconded his motion, information has come to light that there's a new, different president for the league.
Here is Chairman Romilly Kilapat, who is in support of Brown Murema, said the affiliated league supporting Murema are aware of these 2 officials in question.
And we had only 2 people. So there's the nomination for the chairmanship and the nomination for the director for Southern Confederate. And we also had an issue that they mentioned regarding a particular president who called in for a ticket to come and attend the AGM. So those are the issues that they raised with us, and they said they will. We've got 3 weeks, and they're going to get back to us in a couple of days' time to those ones who are affected, to tell us this is the reason why this and that has happened. So until then, as soon as we get those the responses from them, then we will be able to make a formal response to them.
One who is implicated is Peter Oresi, who is currently the league chairman of Popondetta Rugby League. Apparently, he should be serving a life ban from an incident in 2006.
A referee was assaulted, and I was a minister at the time and a member of parliament, member representing the SOHE. I went down to the field to sort out this matter, and I was cited in the paper and said I was banned for life.
Oresi is standing on his word, though, that he was never served a ban by PNGRFL and had been actively participating in administering the game in his province.
Which I never went before PNG Rugby League judiciary to hear side of my story, or even I got a paper. I got a notice from Papua Rugby League to say that I was banned for life. In 15 years, I've been president of Papua Rugby League. Also, I have a club in Port Moresby called Butterflies, a rugby football league club. I participated as a president of the club and also as a league, and no one came with a notice to say that you are banned.
Sandy Saka also clarified that some of the affiliated leagues, citing to oust him, have outstanding payments with PNGRFL for player and league affiliation fees, which might derail their efforts, rendering them unqualified to take part in the election AGM.
Similarly, the eligibility and qualification of the 32 leagues attending the AGM have not been fully certified because there are issues surrounding registrations, player affiliations, and the completion of the 2019 season and 2020 affiliations that need to be resolved and confirmed and ascertained.
The 20 leagues siding with Murema are hoping for a better outcome, with Kerama League Chairman Emmanuel Morehari stating that if their nominees are ousted, fresh nominations should be put forward to effect change in the current PNGRFL administration.
If the due process and our candidates are not going to qualify, we want re-applications of nominations to be entertained, so that this democracy exercise must be emphasized.
Fidelis Sukina National, EMTV Sports.
To kickboxing, and 2 fighters from Marksman Fight Promotions left the country today for Sydney, and it's for their first fight for 2020, which will take place on the 13th of March. The fighters are traveling are Nelson Sampson and Moses Rupa, and they're both fighting in their title bouts in their respective weight categories. Godwin Eke reports.
With the fight set for March 13th, kickboxers Nelson Sampson and Moses Rupa, who left the country for Sydney today under Marksman Fight Promotions, will go as underdogs to take on some of Australia's top fighters.
There are 2 title fights. These 2 gentlemen are going down there to fight, as they have already mentioned. Nelson is fighting the WK Oceania title with the president, Rustam Ati Alai of WK Oceania region. So he's fighting him in that division. Is a South Pacific title. That's Moses Rupa is fighting the South Pacific title, and then Nelson is fighting the WK for Oceania title with the president, Rustam Ati Alai. He's the current president for the Oceania region.
Nelson Samson, who travelled for numerous occasions in the past to Sydney, will be fighting in the 84 kg weight category.
I was told to fight a Russia guy, but because of its title fight, there was a little bit of change, and I put my weight up again to fight with the president of Oceania kickboxing, president of the world.
Travelling for the first time and his first international bout is Moses Rupa, and fighting in the 75 kg weight category.
Thank you, Maximum Salem go down Sydney. First time go down fight South Pacific title.
Michael says both fighters are not going there just to represent their club, Marksmen Fight Promotions, but to make PNG proud.
Moses is his first time. It is the first international exposure. So I hope he'll do us proud and do the country proud. Nelson has travelled on numerous occasions and fought overseas, especially in Australia, under Just Promotions and some other international events within Australia.
This is not the first time Marksmen Fight Promotions has sent its fighters to Australia. Already the club has 3 fighters now settled in Australia fighting under Jazz Promotions. Godwin Eki, National MTV Sports.
And you're watching True Kai Sports. We'll continue with more sporting action after the break. Stay with us.
True Kai Sports.
Welcome back to True Kai Sports. The Chiefs are back on top of the Super Rugby table after an emphatic 51-14 win over the Waratahs. The result knocks the Crusaders to second in the conference after the defending champs produced a far from convincing 24-20 win against the Reds.
When the Crusaders are on, they're one of the best sides to watch in Super Rugby. But instances like that were few and far between last night.
He can set it up here.
The 3-time defending champs admittedly let down by their execution.
That's probably been the story of the year, creating opportunities but haven't been finished them.
While blustery conditions played its part, a motivated Reds side showed they're better than their 1-5 record suggests.
It's Spate. He scores. What a try.
But Scott Robertson's focusing on what they can control. Crusaders made over 200 tackles, but missed 41.
A lot of individual boys, will look at the game and their tape and say, "Geez, how come I even made that?" and realise if it was the mindset thing, or definitely structurally they got through us a couple of times, which is not like us.
The Reds rueing their missed attempts at goal as Richie Mo'onga's boot proved to be the difference.
He's kicking like a dream.
The difference in Wollongong was a 38-point second half for the Chiefs, as the visitors ran away 51-14 victors over the Waratahs.
And Brad Weber, he has got a double.
It underlined their championship credentials, something backed up by veteran first 5 Aaron Cruden.
I suppose there are similar feelings based on, this season's group to the group that we had back in 2012 and 2013.
Those sides went on to win the franchise's only titles. This side has shown they can do the same.
And while Dame Valerie Adams, Tom Welch and Eddie Essentia dominated the Athletics National Championships, there was one result no one saw coming.
This weekend, Hayden Wild should have been racing a triathlon in Abu Dhabi, only for it to be cancelled because of coronavirus.
It's very unfortunate, but at the end of the day, it's really cool that ITU have put athletes first with health. But it's also given me the opportunity to come down to Christchurch and race in the 5,000 metre nationals.
Not just racing, but beating the blustery conditions and a capacity field last night in Christchurch.
Interesting tactical race going on here between Hayden and Matthew.
After a cat and mouse battle with defending champion Matt Baxter.
Matt's trying to stay with him, but look at that good arm drive. And
the 22-year-old clinched the national title in 14 minutes, 13.86 seconds, making a point in the process.
Yeah, he loves it, and rightfully so.
I was pretty stoked of how it went. I dedicated that one to all the triathletes out there. We kind of get a bad name of having shorter courses and races.
But now the bragging rights are his as he eyes up making the Kiwi triathlon team for the Tokyo Olympics. That team will be named in April.
There's 4 4 of us going for 2 spots. It's at the end of the day, we're all very close.
As the country's top-ranked triathlete, Wild is a front-runner, especially after placing 3rd in the Tokyo Test event last August.
First of many, you suspect.
Having beaten the country's best on the track, Wild now heads back to the sport he hopes will get him to Tokyo in July. The first stop on that quest is next weekend's World Cup in Mooloolaba.
You're watching National EMTV News. The weather forecast for the next 24 hours when we come back. Stay tuned.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by Money Plus. With you always. And the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow. Cloudy and showers expected in Port Moresby and Kerama and Alatau. A shower or 2 for Popanetta and mostly fine in Daru. To the Momase region, rain showers in Madang, mostly fine for Wewak. Rain showers also for Vanimo and Wau, and a shower or 2 for Ley. To the New Guinea Islands region, a few showers for Lorengau, cloudy with showers for Kokopora Baul and Kimbe, rain showers expected in Kavieng and Buka to experience some thundery showers. And to the Highlands region, showers then fog for Mount Hagen, rain showers in Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabeg, and rain showers also expected for Goroka. The weather update was proudly brought to you by Money Plus, with you always. And that's the news, sports and weather for Sunday, the 8th of March, 2020. From all of us here at MTV, pleasant viewing and a top working week. Good night.